My name is Nia. I live with my husband Jack and our daughter Sarah, in total 3 people. My daughter is the child of my husband from a previous relationship, so I am her stepmother. Jack and I got married 5 years ago when my daughter was 5 years old. When I was in my 20s, I developed a condition that made it impossible for me to have children. Until then, I had dreamed of marrying and having kids. However, when I was told by my then boyfriend's mother that I should give up on marriage due to my condition, and my boyfriend, who was under his mother's influence, also gave up on me, I was left feeling hopeless. My desire for marriage seemed to vanish entirely. That's when I met Jack and my daughter. My daughter, who was 4 at the time, had gotten lost and was crying. I helped her get to the police station, which was like something out of an old drama, and that's how we met. Our relationship naturally developed into a romance, then a marriage, and we became a family. My daughter surprisingly started calling me Mom early on, and we became a family much more smoothly than I had imagined. I still remember the warm feelings that began to resurface the moment I held her hand at the police station that day. After we married, Jack remained as kind as ever. They saved me from my loneliness, and I truly feel like my daughter is my real child, and I'm delighted to watch her grow. However, Jack's mother did not look favorably upon our family. When I first met her, I could tell she was sizing me up from head to toe. Then she said to think someone would want to marry a woman with a child. Is she after my son's money? I had braced myself to some conflict with my mother-in-law, but I was shocked when she said such things to me upon our first meeting. I was so stunned that I couldn't respond. However, Jack, who was beside me, was furious at his mother's remarks. He grabbed my hand, ignored his mother, who was chasing us, and quickly drove me away in the car.
I'm sorry, she's insane. I don't want her to be involved with you any more than necessary. You don't have to deal with her.
I still remember Jack's face from that moment. Thanks to his strong protection, we had no contact with my mother-in-law after our marriage introduction. But 2 years ago, when my father-in-law fell ill and had to be hospitalized, we had more opportunities to see my mother-in-law. She seemed quite worn out, and her previous intensity had faded, and she was more calm towards me. I vaguely hoped that our relationship would improve. However, at my father-in-law's funeral last year, my mother-in-law made a remark that made Jack's anger reach its peak. Now I can live with my son. After that, I'll kick out that wife and get a new one who can give me a grandson. I don't need anything else as long as I have my son. As relatives cried over their loss, my mother-in-law laughed and said this. It was clear to everyone there that her words were filled with malice and that she was relishing the death of my father-in-law and her hatred toward me. Everyone stared at her in shock as Jack stood up, spoke in a low voice, and pulled her by the collar, dragging her away. When we reached the entrance, Jack roughly threw her out. What are you doing?
If I'm here, you don't need anything else. Damn it, I don't need you at all. I'll handle the arrangements and divorce you from Dad. You can either be thrown out with nothing in front of everyone or stay away from me and Nia. Choose. My mother-in-law, with tears in her eyes, looked around for help, but everyone looked at her with disdain. Although my father-in-law was kind, my mother-in-law had previously said things like stepmothers are so unbecoming and it's disgusting to act like a mother when you didn't even give birth to them. Just that was enough to cause significant emotional damage, but what hurt even more was that she truly wanted a grandson. The words the ex-wife was useless and went to the afterlife. Now he brought in a new wife who can't have children. I don't need a woman like that. Was there no one else who could bear a child? Hurt me more than any sarcasm. It wasn't just me, it was a denial of my daughter's very identity. I couldn't stop crying thinking about how someone could say such things so easily. But at that moment I couldn't tell Jack, and of course I couldn't tell my daughter. So I endured it all by myself. However, thanks to my mother-in-law's self-destruction in front of Jack, her past wrongdoings came to light. After the funeral, she begged Jack for forgiveness many times, but Jack did not forgive her, and never opened the door when she came to visit. Thanks to Jack's stern attitude, my mother-in-law gradually became quieter and stopped contacting us. Our daughter turned 10 and became busy with extracurricular activities and cram school. In response, I took the employee exam at my part-time job and passed, starting work as a full-time employee. But someone who threatened our happiness appeared. That person's name was Daisy, a childhood friend of Jack. Daisy had divorced and returned near the in-laws' house and suddenly contacted Jack. Although Daisy seemed to want to see Jack, he held his phone with a skeptical expression showing his refusal. According to Jack, Daisy is known for her strong sense of justice. While a strong sense of justice sounds good, in her case, she has a tendency to impose her values on others, believing that if people just talk things out, they'll understand. She's caused various problems in the past because of this.
For example, a classmate who had suffered greatly from her mother and her mother's partner and had finally left home from a distant school was contacted by Daisy, who insisted that it was wrong to avoid one's parents even if they were disliked. She would meddle, revealing the person's location to their mother. There was also an incident where she contacted a friend who had fled from her abusive husband, saying it's a shame to make the children stay with the father. Your husband is just clumsy. You should be able to work it out if you talk. Daisy even stole the friend's phone number and contacted the husband's family, causing a huge mess. Jack himself had been affected when trying to distance himself from a friend who had betrayed him. Daisy had insisted, "Why do such a thing? You're friends. You need to learn to forgive. Leave it to me," and contacted the friend on her own, making things worse. As a result, Daisy had been cut off from everyone she had been involved with. What was terrifying was that she was unaware of this and even thought she was doing something good. Sometimes there are people like that. Even if there are various reasons for keeping a distance from family, she believed that family should have unconditional love. She imposed her values on others, thinking only she is right. If I use a cute word, it would be idealistic, but it's really not cute at all. Honestly, she's the type of person I don't want to deal with.
She probably told my mother whatever suited her narrative. Since she hasn't been in touch with relatives since the funeral, it's likely that Daisy is being used as a sounding board for her grievances. She probably says that you've done terrible things to her. Daisy wanting to see me is just her attempt to reconcile me with my mother.
I thought the same thing. Just hearing about her was enough to feel exhausted. She's such an energetic person that I'm sure some kind of turmoil will happen soon. I felt an immense unease about this person I had never met, and that unease turned out to be well-founded. One day, Daisy suddenly came to our house and said, "Mom has collapsed. Come right now." When I hesitated, she forced me to go with her. Left behind, my daughter and I were just bewildered. But as I settled down, I became increasingly annoyed by how she had barged into our home without greeting and avoided making eye contact with me. However, thinking that something might have actually happened to my mother-in-law, I decided to wait for Jack's call. 2 hours later, Jack returned, looking exhausted, and with an indescribable expression on his face. "What happened? Did Mom really collapse?" When I asked, Jack shook his head and sighed heavily. Seeing Jack's reaction, I sighed as well, thinking I knew it. I was told that if there was a misunderstanding, it would be better to discuss it. That part was okay, but then Jack said that Daisy's story was that she wanted me to break up with my daughter. In the meantime, my mother-in-law was pretending to be weak and kind, crying while worrying about her son and granddaughter. "Seems like you've ended up exactly as you said."
I'm fed up with her off-target lectures and my mother's pathetic acting. Even if she lied about collapsing, I have to deal with it because otherwise I wouldn't be able to come to the house. She even gave her our address and she cried about not knowing what Daisy might do.
Jack looked at me with a pained expression.
"They are so foolish and..."
As he hesitated to speak, I guessed,
"She wants me to break up with you and be with someone else."
When Jack averted his gaze, my intuition told me that I was right. "And did she tell you to marry Daisy?" The way he looked down made me sure that I am not wrong. Daisy had divorced and returned, right? How about children?
She seems to have a child, but her ex-husband took custody. It looks like they're dreaming of us getting remarried and living together with a child.
Are you kidding?
She knows our address now. Should we move? I know you worked hard to become a full-time employee, but the thought of what you're suggesting weighs heavily on my heart.
He's trying to protect me and our daughter. Compared to dealing with those people, the difficulty of commuting is nothing. Even if I have to quit my job, our family's safety is the most important thing. I'll follow you as far as you'll go. I squeezed Jack's hand and nodded slowly. A few days later, a minor trouble occurred at work and I had to stay late. I emailed Jack, but on such a day, he was also staying late. I was worried about leaving our daughter alone and rushed to resolve the issue. Our daughter texted that she was fine and would lock the door and go to bed. Even so, I was worried and frustrated by the slow progress of the task. The trouble was eventually resolved, but it was past 11 p.m. I received a message from my daughter that she was going to bed, so I hurried home. When I got there, I quietly inserted the key into the lock and found the door open. I wondered if Jack had come home early, or if our daughter had forgotten to lock the door. As I entered quietly, I was about to call out when suddenly my right arm was yanked. I was dragged into a room closet next to the entrance. Shocked, I felt like my heart would stop from fear. As I tried to resist, my mouth was suddenly covered. Shh! I looked back fearfully and realized it was my daughter covering my mouth. Confused, I stared wide-eyed as she whispered, "Don't make a sound." She then gently pushed the closet door open a few centimeters and looked at me. I guided my daughter to the living room. There, my mother-in-law and Daisy were sitting and talking about something. What are they doing here? Why did they come in without permission? How long have they been here? I heard their voices and knew it wasn't Mom and Dad. I was scared, so I hid in the closet. My daughter knew that my mother-in-law disliked her, so she must have sensed something instinctively. Gripping my daughter's hand, I felt it was sweaty and clammy from fear. What are they doing at this hour? It looks like they're not even here. Are they traveling or something? Maybe it's a weekday. I bet they're out with that awful wife, making a fuss even with a child in tow. It's terrible, isn't it? It's outrageous. But knowing that woman, she'd do something like this. I feel sorry for my son. Why did he get involved with such a woman? But it's actually good. I can use this as an excuse to kick that stupid wife out. And we can make her take the granddaughter too. That way I can make my son remarry and finally get the male grandchild I've always wanted. The child is a toddler, so it's perfect. How exciting. I will cherish you as my real mother, Mom. I was horrified as I listened to Daisy and my mother-in-law's conversation. I thought about confronting them right then and there, but I didn't want to leave my trembling daughter alone. Knowing they could do anything to put my daughter, I stayed put. I received a text from Jack saying he was downstairs. I was glad I had kept my phone on silent. I texted Jack to come to the first room without making noise. He asked,
Is something wrong?
I just texted, come quickly. Jack quickly returned home. My daughter and I held hands and waited for him. A few minutes later, I recognized Jack's face peeking through the slightly open door. Sarah started to cry seeing his face without making sounds. I placed a finger over my lips and gestured for silence and pointed out a living room. They haven't come back yet. Maybe next time. I thought it would be more impactful to come at night, but it's okay. There's always another way to make them leave. We could show this to our son and he'll lose interest. Then he'll be comforted by you and love will blossom. My mother-in-law waved her hand dramatically. Recent reproductions are so well done. You can't even tell unless you look closely. I'm excited to live with you and my son, but this time it's our turn. But what if the wife is actually cheating? As the two of them laughed, Jack stood up suddenly. Just then a vase in the entrance crashed loudly. What was that? I'll go check. When Daisy tried to go to the entrance, the lights suddenly went out, plunging the room into darkness. What's going on? In the dark, Jack barged in and shouted,
What are you doing here?
The two of them screamed at the loud voice. Mom! I heard a child's voice. The sudden appearance of Jack and the sound of my daughter's voice made the two of them panic even more. A sudden thunderclap made them scream even louder. Seeing my daughter's anxious face, a wave of anger surged through me towards my mother-in-law and Daisy. They had intruded into our home, done whatever they pleased, and frightened my daughter. I stood up and slowly opened the sliding door. The two of them, still in panic, did not seem to recognize me in the dark. I will never forgive this. You've hurt my precious family and my daughter. I will not forgive you. Nia? The two of them cowered in fear as I approached, finally collapsing to the floor. I will never forgive you, I shouted as I illuminated my face with a flashlight. At that moment, a lightning bolt struck with the perfect timing. Nia, please, forgive us. The two of them, crying, crawled out of the room. When Jack turned on the light switch, the room lit up brightly.
They've left, right?
Yes. Jack is looking at me. I turned off the flashlight.
They seemed terrified. Maybe they thought you were a ghost or something.
Probably. I must have looked like a long-haired ghost in the dark, and hearing a child's voice from an empty room would add to the horror. Mom, I was so scared. I hugged my daughter tightly. I'm sorry for scaring you. It's okay now. Seeing our daughter's condition, Jack had tears in his eyes and repeatedly apologized. My mother-in-law and Daisy had planned to present fake evidence of infidelity to get me thrown out. They intended to visit during the night, when the whole family was home, show the supposed evidence to Jack, and make him furious enough to divorce me. They had hoped to throw me out and have Daisy and her daughter move in with Jack instead. Daisy had even brought copies of a fake photo and a forged investigation report. But we're not easily fooled by such absurd schemes. They underestimated our family. Daisy had planned to take her son after kicking me out, but her ex-husband firmly refused. The child didn't want to go to Daisy's place either. It seems she was divorced because she was having an affair. Daisy was also a troublemaker who had ruined her relationships with everyone, including her ex-husband and his family. Jack had once said that Daisy was doing bad things, thinking she was doing good things, but I felt from the start that his judgment was wrong. Daisy's fierce determination to take Jack from me was clear in her intense gaze. Even knowing I was present, she avoided looking at me, and I instantly sensed her ill will. Her actions were not driven by justice or kindness. She seemed to enjoy breaking relationships. When I heard about the divorce reason, I wasn't surprised at all. Daisy is now barred from even seeing her son once a month. Her dream of living with her son in a new place was shattered. I feel no sympathy. It's all her own doing. My mother-in-law has not visited since that night. She hasn't contacted us either. The neighbors say she believes Jack's former wife has come back as a ghost, haunting them. They've even put up talismans at the entrance, saying our family is cursed. They've been buying things like jars and charms. And on weekends, the sounds of chanting sutras can be heard from several houses away. The neighbors have said they're troubled by it. If she wants to keep thinking that, let her. Although I've only seen his previous wife in photos, we look quite different, but have similar builds. Given my mother-in-law's extreme fear, I'm sure his previous wife must have had trouble with her as well. My mother-in-law's involvement with suspicious groups led us to decide to move and start preparing. As we were finishing packing and getting ready for the move tomorrow, Daisy showed up with a loud ringing of the doorbell.
You've ruined my life. I can't even see my son, whom I gave birth to with great pain. Why are you so comfortable as a stepmother? As Daisy raged, her hair disheveled, I blocked her way. According to your own theory, if families can understand each other through discussion, why can't you talk things out with your ex-husband and his parents? If you can't even meet your child, what does that mean? Daisy turned her face red. Why don't you use your so-called sense of justice to fix your own relationships? You've claimed to make many people happy with your kindness, haven't you? What are you saying? Yes, family is absolute.
But you taking my husband and living with your son, that's not right. Your son isn't really his child, is he? Isn't that a contradiction? Your expression of justice is meaningless.
I know Jack from when he was a child. Our families are close. You're just a stranger to us.
But your familiar Jack doesn't like you. Despite being a stepmother, I'm not like you. I don't impose on neighbors and play with men. I've always been ready to be a mother to my daughter from the moment I married Jack, and that hasn't changed. I would protect my daughter as if entrusted by his former wife. No matter what anyone says, she's my daughter. Daisy's face was red and trembling, and my daughter, frightened, clung to my shirt.
Get out. Do you want me to report you for trespassing? I was considering overlooking it for the sake of your young son, but since you've been cut off, it's irrelevant now. Leave immediately or I'll call the police.
When Jack said this, Daisy's eyes filled with tears, and she looked up at Jack.
Why are you saying this? I've always loved you. Even now I'm in love with you.
Daisy's insincere words made me involuntarily mutter. Even if those feelings are real, what are you trying to achieve now? Jack laughed in disbelief, so Daisy couldn't step back due to embarrassment.
Why are you laughing? My ex-husband and the neighbors misunderstood me. I'm a very kind person who wants to help others. You're being deceived by this woman. If you marry me, I will take care of both you and your daughter. I'll also be kind to your mother and treat you all like a real family.
Jack dryly laughing, then sighing in exasperation.
I'd rather not receive anything if it's like this. I refuse. It's clear you just want to escape your debts and find a new partner to make life easier. Enough. I'm really going to call the police.
Daisy, exhausted and enraged, glared at Jack.
How could you misunderstand me too? I'm a good person.
Daisy started crying in earnest. To protect our daughter, Jack and I stood close together. People don't usually need to declare they're good or kind. Others decide that for them. Instead of making ridiculous accusations, why don't you face yourself?
No, let's call the police.
As Jack took out his phone, Daisy glared at us and fled. I'm sorry you were scared. It's okay now. I patted my daughter's head, who clung to me tightly, and tears nearly came to my eyes.
Mom, I think of you as my real mom. How about you?
Of course I do. I'll never let you scared again. Tomorrow we'll start anew in a new place. We held each other's hands tightly, vowing to protect our happiness.